Alright, so what's up guys? So today's learning target, we're going to be calculating the area of a trapezoid. And this right here is the trapezoid. It's going to be a new polygon that we're going to be including in our lessons now. So the area of a trapezoid is half its height multiplied by the sum of the lengths of its two bases. So in order to sum that up, we have this formula here. It's shown as area equals half the height multiplied by base 1 plus base 2. And here we have it visually using our new trapezoid. If you notice, base 1's up top, base 2's on the bottom. If you want all the time, it does not have to be that specific. You can put base 2 up top, base 1 on the bottom, because in the end we're just adding them up. But its height will always be in the middle, from the bottom up to the top. Just like how we saw yesterday with that dotted line, we're seeing it here again in our trapezoid.
So we have our formula here, and here we have a trapezoid. What I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to substitute right into the formula like we have done with expressions and equations and inequalities in the past. I'm going to bring down my area equals 1/2. My height, H is height. I'm going to look for my height. Remember, your height is a straight line that goes from the top to the bottom or bottom to top, which is 14. I'm going to put that in parentheses because it's multiplying. Now I have B1 plus B2. Like Mr. Mione previously stated, it doesn't really matter which one you make for base 1 or base 2 because they're both bases and then you add them up together. So I'll make 9 my B1 and I'll make 15 my base 2. Okay. Now if I just go left to right, I have half of 14, and half of 14 we should all know is 7, and I'm going to bring everything else down. If I do 9 plus 15, that gives me 24. And then if I do 7 times 24, that gives me 168. Now remember, we need to use our units of measure, which are centimeters. And like we stated in our prior lesson, area is always squared. So the area of this trapezoid is 168 centimeters squared. Okay, so another way, I showed you one way, here's another way that you could have solved for the area of this trapezoid, still plugging into your formula, half of 14, which is your height, and base 1 and base 2, which is 9 and 15. I literally basically just went left to right here. Half of 14 is 7, and then I brought everything down, the 9 plus 15. Then if you notice my little arrows here, we worked on a specific property. I'm hoping everybody remembers it. Distributive property. You take your 7 and you distribute it to your numbers on the inside of the parentheses. So I did 7 times 9, which is 63. 7 times 15, which is 105. I add the two together and I still get 168 centimeters squared. Now that's a second way. A third way that you could have done this is over here in the pink. Once again, starting off with plugging into my formula. Notice how immediately I start the distributive property. I did 14 times 9, which is 126. 14 times 15, which is 210. Then I brought down my half. With this case, it doesn't matter if you go left to right because you have all multiplying here as long as you have your sum together. Then I did 126 plus 210, which is 336. I brought down my half again. So half of 336 is 168 centimeters squared. So with the trapezoid, there are many different ways to actually use the formula and break it down. It's really up to you. As you're working, I would suggest you have your calculators at home or you have a calculator on a computer. Check your work. Do it multiple ways, and whichever way you feel most comfortable with, you should definitely use it.
Alright guys, next slide here is your independent practice. You have a polygon, so you have to determine the area of this trapezoid. You can have 2 independent questions. This is the first one. You should have the slides already. If not, you can take a second, pause the video. Alright, so here's the work. This is the answer key. This is Miss Gilberto's. So Miss Gilberto wrote out her formula, and then she substituted. Her height was 7, which we see here, from top to bottom, bottom to top. Base 1, base 2 was 16 and 8, so she substituted those as well. If you notice, she used her distributive property. She multiplied 7 by both 16 and 8, and it got her to 112 plus 56. Follow her arrow down, she added the 2 up, got 168, as she brought down her half. And then, to wrap it up, she divided 168 by 2, giving her the answer of 84 centimeters squared. But like we mentioned before, there's more than one way to do it, and this is how I did it. So I wrote my formula out, I substituted just like Miss Gilberto, same numbers. However, I started by splitting my 7 in half. And I wanted to do this to show you that we can get decimals. Once you split 7 in half, it gave me 3.5. I added my 16 and 8, I got 24. I multiplied the two of them, and I still got the same answer as Ms. Gilberto. We both got 84 centimeters squared. So we can get decimals, but in the end, we should get the same number. Also with this one, if you didn't notice, there was some extra information that we did not need. We only needed our base 1, base 2, and our height. We had the 9 centimeters and our 10 centimeters. We did not need that. All we needed was the height and our two bases.
Okay, so now we have a word problem. So it's not just a shape, we have a word problem, we're gonna have to annotate it, and I want you to try it on your own, but let me read it to you first. So it says, a section of a deck is in the shape of a trapezoid. What is the area of this section of the deck? So you have your trapezoid, you have the information, and here once again we supplied you with the formula. You have to use the formula to find the area of the deck with the information given. So I'm going to give you a minute to pause the video and try this on your own. Okay, so now that you had your minute to try this on your own, here are some possible ways that you could have gone about answering this problem. Remember, there are more than just one way, more than just two ways, there's multiple ways. There are just two examples here. So once again, I have my area formula. I like to use a distributive property. So I'm going to plug in for my height, which is 16, and my bases, which are 17 and 39. So if I did the distributive property first, 16 times 7 is 272. 16 times 39 is 624. I brought down my half. Now I'm going to do what's inside my parentheses first. 272 plus 624 is 896. Bring down my half again. Half of 896 is 448 feet squared. Remember area, you always want to square your units of measure. Another way that you could have done this is Mr. Mione's way. Once again, he wrote his formula, he plugged in the height, which is 16, your bases, which are 17 and 39. So I'm looking at Mr. Mione's work. He did half of 16 first, which is 8, and he also did 17 plus 39, which is 56. So he basically did it all in one step. Then he did 8 times 56, and he still got 448 feet squared, and we both got the same answer. Keep in mind, same answers, different strategies, and that's all that we're asking.